All right, I've been honestly debating whether or not I want to make a video on Steve Bannon's comments to The Economist, where he said that Trump is gearing up for a run in 2028. A lot of people argue that Steve Bannon is trying to distract. He's trying to take the headlines away from the current issues like the rising cost of living, the Epstein files, the wars that Trump has failed to end. And I understand that. Steve Bannon is basically a master bullshit artist. He's the one who coined the phrase flood the zone. Have so many different stories at once that nobody knows how to keep track. So I was like, I don't know if I want to take his bait. But after watching this video and after Mehdi Hassan saying he's not joking, huge crisis coming our way, bigger than the current ones. And after this video of Scott Galloway and Jessica Tarlov describing the stakes, I decided we need to be covering this. There's enough space to cover everything at once. So make sure you're subscribed to the Adam Mockler feed because the next video is going to be a very important one about the state of the economy. But for now, let's start off with this clip of Scott Galloway saying that Trump's orgy of corruption with the ballroom, his words, shows that Trump is not planning on leaving the White House. Take a listen.
The notion that he won't get this money from the DOJ is ridiculous. The DOJ is now full of his political appointees. If the 53 people elected by their constituents to be Republican senators are so scared of this guy that after he sends a mob to kill them, they still fillet this guy, we're supposed to think the political appointees aren't going to give him $230 million? It's going to happen. As it relates to, in this ongoing orgy of corruption, as it relates to the White House, what this says is so obvious, and it's the following. If I'm renting a place, which you are when you're the president, this isn't your place. You don't own it. You're not staying there. If I'm renting a place, I won't buy a new fucking microwave. And the fact that he is renovating something, which might take 12, 24, 36 months, is yet another piece of evidence on top of the fact that he is normalizing masked secret police in cities. It all points to the same thing. Folks, he has no intention of leaving. You don't renovate when you're moving out in 36 months. So to me, okay, the orgy of corruption, we're used to that. Rubber stamp from people who are scared of him and willing to bend the knee. We know that's going to happen.
You know, I want to add on another reason why I think Trump is so obsessed with this ballroom is because he wants the long-lasting effect of like a Trump ballroom to be there for the next 200 years. So every president, no matter whether they're Democrat or Republican, has to sit there and has to hold meetings in that ballroom because the East Wing is gone.
The most interesting thing here, besides his incredibly bad taste, is that he is clearly not planning on leaving the White House.
I mean, I feel like folks are finding their voice to articulate the fact that we are in very real danger of not having free and fair elections in 2026 and then moving on to 2028. But I totally agree with you as someone who is renting currently. I have done very little in here to customize it, not even a California closet. And watching, again, the mental gymnastics of people trying to defend this, or the examples that they're giving, like Caroline Levitt pointing out that Barack Obama put in a basketball court. He only put lines, by the way, on a tennis court. But you're saying, oh, a bowling alley got added. Like, on what fucking planet do you think that an entertaining structure, which is all that he cares about in life, that is almost double the size of the White House, is the same thing as a golf simulator?
Double standards are crazy, and this brings me on to Steve Bannon saying that Trump isn't leaving the White House. This is Trump's old advisor saying the exact same thing.
Well, he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28, and people just ought to get accommodated with that.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is, but there's a plan, and President Trump will be the president in 28. We had longer odds in 16 and longer odds in 24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president of the United States. We have to finish what we started. And the way we finish it through Trump is a vehicle. I know this will drive you guys crazy, but he's a vehicle of divine providence. He's an instrument. He's very imperfect. He's not churchy, not particularly religious, but he's an instrument of divine will, and you can tell this of how he's pulled this off. We need him for at least one more term, right? And he'll get that in 28.
You're not driving me crazy. I'm trying to understand coherence of the things you've just told me in the last few minutes. On the one hand, you've said the Constitution is fit for purpose.
Yep.
Secondly, you've said that President Trump needs another term, even though the 22nd Amendment makes pretty clear that he cannot have another term.
Why does it make that clear?
Because he's on his second term already.
At some point in time, we will make sure we go through, Zanny, and define all those terms. Okay?
But even if you find a way to undermine you will be undermining the spirit of that amendment, even if you find some way around it. And to those
Can the American people, if the American people, with the mechanisms we have, put Trump back in office, are the American people tearing up the Constitution? Would that be tearing up?
Well,
would the American people be going against the spirit of the Constitution, ma'am?
By the way, after Trump lost the 2020 election and came out kicking and screaming, trying to overrule the results of the election, he then called for the termination of all rules and regulations in the Constitution that didn't allow him to win. These people do not care about the Constitution. Remember that TikTok? It wasn't a TikTok, but it was a video that Donald Trump posted a while back of him showing world leaders his Trump 2028 hats, Gulf of America hats. I mean, he brings like dictators into his little closet and shows them his Trump 2028 hats. This is absurd.
I think yes, actually, because I think what you will end up with is a populist justification for a quasi-dictatorship.
That's not true at all.
That's what it sounds like.
It's not. Trump is a dictatorship. Did you just see the compromises he had to make on the big, beautiful bill? You see the compromises he has to do on everything, on accommodating Zelensky, on what President Trump. President Trump is nothing.
The government is shut down. He won't make any sort of compromise on that. And when it comes to Zelensky, he's been bullying and yelling at Zelensky, according to all reports. There's been no compromise there.
But a series of negotiations to kind of keep this thing rolling forward, where he's having trade-offs all the time.
Steve, you've just spent the last 20 minutes telling me we have to smash the other side. There's no room for debate. There's no room for compromise. We must smash them. And now you're telling me this is a negotiation. I mean, that's
no.
I think that's why it seems to me some kind of tension
First
there.
off, the only way President Trump wins in 2028 and continues to stay in office is by the will of the American people. Okay? And the will of the American people.
Now he's just trolling. Like what he's saying right there is incoherent. He's going to overrule the Constitution in a dictatorial way and then let the American people decide. That is inherently fascistic. That is dictatorial and authoritarian. I think Steve Bannon is like a drunken uncle. He doesn't even work with the Trump campaign anymore or the Trump administration. He's just out there saying random BS, but there's a lot of truth to what he says at the end of the day. When he's saying that Donald Trump has these authoritarian ambitions or instincts, you see them manifest on a daily basis. And when it comes to the midterms in 2026, just keep in mind two things. Number one, the Republicans do not want the Democrats to turn out. And number two, we all need to turn out. So Republicans will do anything, whether it's armed men in the streets, whether it's making sure that we feel demotivated, whether it's rigging it via Texas and adding 5 new seats. Republicans will do any possible thing to try to delegitimize the 2026 election and stop Democrats from turning out. But that just means we need to turn out harder. That means if this video gets 245,000 views or whatever, every single person who watches this video needs to turn out. We'll continue to fight for that. Just make sure you drop a like, subscribe below to help us get towards 2 million subscribers. I love you all. Peace out.